Never sunscreen. Ever. Ever in your life should you ever put on sunscreen ever again. You can try to argue with me, but you would just be wrong. What's up, all my YouTube brothers and sisters? It's time for yet another damn video. Son of a... So, I recently did a video, obviously, that I didn't plan to do. It was called, What Am I Eating Today? Basically, I had, at the very literal last second, I had made my lunch, and I was breaking an intermittent fast with this lunch of ground beef and eggs, which is something I eat nearly every single day, and probably will for the rest of my life, because it's just delicious. And I mentioned how within the video, that I think it's very important to keep it very dynamic in regard to how you mix up things like intermittent fasting, fat fast, protein fast. If you're an OMAD person, 1 meal a day, it's probably not good to do that every day. You can maybe do that a couple days a week, and then a couple days a week, maybe have 2 meals a day, and then maybe a day or two a week, have 3 meals on that day. So you change it up a little bit. Sometimes on intermittent fasting, it might be better to have your feeding window later in the day, and then some days it might be best to have your intermittent fasting feeding window earlier in the day. So the moral of the story was to keep it very, very dynamic throughout the week with your dietary habits. And that tends to work the best. And I found that for myself. I found that for certain clients. And there are others out there in the nutrition space, in the ancestral health biohacking kind of community that would echo this. And oftentimes it has to do with circadian biology. And circadian biology is something that I've been terribly interested in, especially since I retired from competitive bodybuilding. Competitive bodybuilding is a whole different freaking animal. I think to optimize competitive bodybuilding, like you're competing and you have to get to that insanely low level of body fat, like literally like 3-4%. It's a different prescription than if the goal is longevity, performance, health, et cetera, et cetera. Honestly, the bodybuilding, the contest prep life is kind of toxic. And there's really nothing healthy, especially about the last 12 weeks of a bodybuilding contest prep is not a healthy endeavor. It's toxic. It's screwed up. But like any other competitive thing, usually health is kind of put on the back burner, and it's all about either the performance aspect or the aesthetic aspect, depending on what sport you're in. Boxing is not healthy. You're getting pummeled in the damn face, risking, long-term brain damage, et cetera, et cetera. Bodybuilding, to take yourself down to 3-4% body fat, as I just mentioned, that's not a pursuit of health. Now, there are some out there, the outliers that I often mention, that can maybe maintain, 6%, 8% year-round, but that is very difficult to do. And for the overwhelming majority of us, it's not really a healthy thing. You do need a little bit of body fat, and you need to take in a certain amount of dietary fat, clearly, obviously, to promote healthy hormonal output. But I digress completely on that one. The point I'm trying to get at is now that I'm not suffering myself down to a ridiculous 3.9% body fat to try to stand on stage in the equivalent of less than my underwear under bright white lights in front of 1,000 people, My focus is now health, longevity, performance, and to be the best freak that I can possibly be at my age, whatever that age may be. I will be 56 in November of this year. So my goal, when the calendar flips over to November the 2nd, 2024, and I become 56, wow, where did the time go? Right? So when I become 56 years old, I want to say to myself, am I the best version of 56 that I could possibly be, both from a health standpoint? How's my blood work? How's my performance? Can I still get after it with the youngins? That's the goal, right? So dieting down to 3.9% body fat doesn't really check off those boxes. That is for a specific aesthetic goal that doesn't necessarily line up with my health and longevity goals. So now if I can be, say, 12 to 14% in the winter months and really nourishing my body, and then maybe get down to around that 10% or maybe slightly sub 10% mark in the warmer months, so I look damn good at the beach, then that's my goal. And that's just fine. I don't care if I have carved up abdominals and just shredded vascularity and veins everywhere kind of bull smack. I don't care about that so much anymore. I just want to be that guy that people might say, hey, that dude's 56. Well, holy shit. He looks, wow. Okay, cool. Yeah. Who doesn't feel good when you get a comment like that? And I have a responsibility to look dashing for the lovely Mrs. Goodwin, and to be a good example for my children, my grandson, and those who might put their faith and trust in me as their coach or the guy that they like to follow on YouTube. And if you're one of those people, well, you're just you're a special breed. So anyway, way back to circadian biology, something that I've been terribly, terribly interested in because it keeps proving itself over and over again as a viable component, an important component of what I do on a daily basis to be the best version of myself that I can be. And I can tell you, I fail at it every single day. Every single day. So that it is really something that, for me, it's probably harder to nail down than diet, than training, really anything else for me. Because circadian biology, your circadian rhythm, plays such an important role in everything that you do to bring about the results that you desire, both from a health standpoint and from an aesthetic standpoint. If you're having trouble changing your body composition, if you're having trouble losing weight, if you're having trouble gaining muscle, if you're having trouble in the bedroom, I mean, it could be across the map, then your circadian rhythm, your circadian biology probably is playing a big role with that. If your blood work's not so great, that could be one of the missing components. It's the same reason why when I issue challenges every year, usually, the January time of year, to get everybody motivated and off their ass and ready for the new year, one of the components of those challenges is usually something to do with avoiding blue light stimulation and getting in touch with your circadian biology. So anyway, damn it, to the point, Rob, okay? Fasting. You know that video I talked about like a long ass time ago when I started this video and referenced that, or we were talking about certain types of intermittent fasting that I like to do, and I try to keep it dynamic. Well, I do think that whole dynamic thing is important because the body is always searching for some level of homeostasis. It's always trying to set your thermostat and leave it there. And I believe that it's good to constantly shake up and readjust that thermostat to keep things moving along in a manner with which you would like to proceed towards a particular goal, an aesthetic goal, a health goal, or whatever. And usually the aesthetic and the health kind of work together. If you're getting leaner, you're getting healthier, and vice versa. So the ideal way to do an intermittent fast, and again, let me give you my quick disclaimer on that. I don't think it's a good idea to intermittent fast every single day. I don't I think it's good to shake it up. That's my whole, frequency dynamics kind of a situation where I'm always kind of changing it up. I don't intermittent fast every day. I don't do OMAD every single day. I might only do that once a week, if that. I don't do a 24-hour fast or a 36-hour fast every week, but I do them several times throughout the year. I kind of shake that up. But with that said, if you are going to, if you are the type of person that reaps great benefit from intermittent fasting, it's just something that, you don't have to do intermittent fasting. The keto geeks and a lot of the carnivore kooks sort of adopted intermittent fasting as a, be all end all, you must incorporate this into this lifestyle or we tear up your card kind of a situation. You don't have to intermittent fast, but it can be a good thing to dynamically mingle into your weekly protocol. So I will intermittent fast different days in different ways each week. At the recording of this particular video, it is a Thursday. And this is one of those weeks where I did a little bit more just because I'm digging it and I haven't done several consecutive intermittent fasts in quite some time. So this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I'm doing a roughly 17, hour fast with a 7-hour feeding window, sometimes 16-8, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I like the dynamics of that. And then tomorrow, just so I don't get stagnant with it, I will do something completely different, if not the complete opposite. So when you're doing intermittent fasting, is there an ideal way to intermittent fast? I think there is. But again, it doesn't have to be every day. Let's say you decide, I'm going to intermittent fast 3 days this week. I think that's great. I think that's fine. So what is the ideal way? Get to the point, Rob. The ideal way to intermittent fast is in conjunction with your circadian rhythm, or if you're trying to dial in your circadian rhythm, your relationship with the sun, which dictates so much in terms of your overwhelming level of health. So if you can get in tune to awaking with the sun and then going to bed shortly after the sun sets, that's going to be ideal. And then when you're doing that consistently, the weight loss is easier, the muscle growth is easier, you're ridding yourself of dead cells is easier, autophagy becomes easier, going in and out of ketosis works easier, having that metabolic flexibility works easier, your sleep itself will be improved, you will wake easier in the morning, you will fall asleep easier at night. All of these things work much better if you get in touch with your circadian biology, and a big part of doing that is the absorption of morning sunlight, okay? But with that absorption of morning sunlight, ideally, your body syncs up with your circadian rhythm better if you're having a nice whack of protein and fat in the morning as the sun rises. So what's ideal, if you have the ability to literally eat your carnivore breakfast outside, on the front porch, on the back deck, whatever. When that morning sun is rising and it's getting into your retinas without glasses, no sunglasses, never sunscreen, ever in your life should you ever put on sunscreen ever again. You can try to argue with me, but you would just be wrong. So don't even try. Okay. So waking in the morning, even if it's before sunrise or right with sunrise, And then you consume a nice little whack of protein and fat as the sun is rising, getting into those retinas, consuming that morning bit of high quality, high caliber nutrition. That would be ideal. And then that would be within your intermittent fasting feeding window. So if you have a 8-hour feeding window, and let's say you wake up at 6 o'clock and it's still dark, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, your feeding window would be between 6 and 2. You should have your first meal as the sun is rising. It might be wherever you live in the time of the year. It might be 6:30 in the morning. It might be 7 in the morning. It might be 7:30 in the morning. Have that first protein and fat rich meal then. And then you can allocate yourself another meal, at any point between that 2 p.m. window, and then after 2 p.m. or whatever your feeding window is, after that, then you're done for the day. And then the sun sets, and then you do everything in your power to try to avoid blue light stimulation, phones, tablets, computers, televisions, fluorescent lights. And then as early as you can after sunset, get your ass to bed. And that's really the key component, and that's the initial steps to resetting your circadian rhythm in accordance to your or our human natural circadian biology. So that would be the ideal way to intermittent fast. Your feeding window would be in the morning, and you would start to consume food at or shortly after sunrise. If you can get the morning sun in your eyes while eating that breakfast, that's ideal. And then that feeding window stays open, for that 7-8 hours until roughly 2 p.m. or so. If you started it at 6, let's say, hypothetically, you can adjust it, according to when you wake up and whatever. And then after your feeding window closes, nothing, and then you go to bed as soon after sunset as you can. The cool thing about it this way is it's the best way to set that circadian rhythm. And number 2, your sleep will be greatly improved by you going to bed without your digestion working. So one of the worst things I think, I used to say, it doesn't matter when you eat. That's a bunch of bullshit. As long as you, meet these macros this amount of time, it doesn't matter. I was wrong. I was definitely wrong about that. If you can not have food in your digestive tract 2-3 hours before you go to bed, that's going to be ideal. And more is better. Meaning, I go to bed fairly early because I get up so early. I have to get up at 4 in the morning because of my job. I train people in the gym at 5 a.m. every day, starting at 5 a.m. So I'm usually in bed by around 8 o'clock. So 8, 7, 6, if I can be done eating, if me and my family can eat dinner, if we're doing a dinner, if my feeding window includes dinner, if we can be eating around 5 o'clock, that's what I would ideally like to be doing, because then I give myself a few hours, 2-3 hours, sometimes 4, depending, of letting that food digest and be rid of that before I then lay my head down and go to bed. And that's going to be far better for my ability to both fall asleep, my ability to achieve REM sleep, my ability to achieve deep sleep. And by sleeping, especially between sort of that magic time of between 10 and 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., that's really the period of time when all the magic happens in terms of recovery. And there's some other, very important things that happen within the brain, usually around that 3 a.m. mark. And then, you've had this beautiful sleep cycle of between 6.5 to 8 hours sleep. That's when the magic happens. And then you awake in the morning, and then you awake with the sun, preferably consuming food, if you're able to do the feeding window that way. So that'd be the ideal way to do it. Now, I get it. just from a social standpoint, socially meaning with your family or socially, with friends and loved ones and coworkers, whatever the case may be, some people can't do the feeding window in the morning to the afternoon. They have to do the feeding window from the afternoon to the evening. So you fast all night when you're sleeping, and then you continue to fast all morning, and then you break that fast, maybe around 11 a.m. or 12, noon, whatever. And then your feeding window is then from noon until, let's say, 7 o'clock or even 8 o'clock, depending on when you begin your window. And that's okay. It's not the most ideal, but it's fine. It works just fine because a lot of people really value their time eating dinner with their families. I do too. Some people do a lot of, social sort of eating with coworkers or loved ones or whatever. And that, dinner time is just a really important part of your evening as part of your lifestyle. I get that. That's fine. I am not a zealot. I'm not going to wag my finger at you either way. So if it's better for you and your family to have your feeding window afternoon to evening, I'm cool with that. Still try to eat your final meal as early as you possibly can before sunset. That's going to be ideal. You should at least strive to do that. So if the sun sets at 8 p.m., try to have your final meal, 6:30 at the latest would be great. And then the sun sets and you've had ample time to digest all of your food and be as close to an empty stomach and an unfed state as you possibly can before you put your head on your pillow, preferably by around 10 o'clock at the latest, then taking advantage of that critical time between 10 and 2 when all the beautiful processes happen when you are at sleep. There's nothing cool, hip, or badass about being one of these people that says, I'll get all the sleep I need when I'm dead, and bragging about the fact that you're surviving on 3 or 4 hours sleep. That's not cool. You are not a badass. You are, in fact, a dumbass. Now, I get it. There's some people because of work and vocation and stuff like that that just can't do it or they're having trouble with that. This is something that needs to be worked on. So we need to figure that out. That's another video completely. That's something you need to deal with. But in terms of, hey, I wonder what the best time to intermittent fast would be. Ideal, morning to afternoon feeding window, eating as the sun rises, sun into your retinas, no sunglasses of any kind. Get through that feeding window, intermittent fast for the afternoon into the evening, and then all night at sleep, wake up, rinse, repeat, do it again. But again, be dynamic with it. Maybe you do the morning feeding window intermittent fast 2 or 3 days a week. Maybe you do the evening feeding window intermittent fast a couple of times a week. And then maybe take another day and don't intermittent fast at all. Maybe that's going to be a great day for maybe an energy refeed where you eat just a little bit more food than you normally do to really nourish the body on that particular day, just keeping the same healthy foods that you normally would, just in more amounts. Sometimes that's a good thing to do. Maybe you throw in a protein fast. I have a video on that. Check it out. All of these little hacks and little acts of voodoo work really, really well. And if you keep things very dynamic, good things generally happen. The body doesn't like super strict, rigid routines for most of these things. So that's the way you want to do it. And if you wear glasses, like these, I have these Oakleys that I got from I've got an incredible client here locally, and she has a retail vision wear, eyewear store where she makes glasses, prescription glasses, sunglasses. She made these for me, and they have blue light blocking lenses in them. And they're not even the amber, kind. They're clear. There's a little bit of a tint to them, but they are pretty, high tech, kind of the latest technology in blue light blocking lenses for prescription eyewear, which I often need because I'm blind as a freaking bat. So anyway, that's going to be the ideal way to intermittent fast. And I think you're going to get a lot of benefit from that. So the moral of the story, kids, is try to do whatever you can to sync up with your natural human circadian biology that is really programmed within our bodies as a species from birth and throughout our history. And when you dial that in, that could literally be that final component that you may be missing out on in terms of getting all the results that you need. You can be training hard, you can be eating great, but if you're not sleeping well and if your circadian rhythm is not set according to the way it should be set, then you're leaving results on the table. You're leaving health benefits on the table, and you can really go a long way to do that. And you can do that along with your intermittent fasting protocols. So there you go. So that's it. I just wanted to throw that in there. Just, I got some messages from that previous video that I mentioned, the What Am I Eating Today video, where I did talk about some intermittent fasting stuff. And I just wanted to clarify that, and I thought this might be helpful. So there you go. All right. Get out there. Get some sun into your eyes. Get outside, for the love of God. Fresh air, sunlight. That's some good medicine right there. Train hard, diet harder, but do whatever you got to do to have an outstanding freaking day outside in the sun. Peace.